After spending so many days running for their lives, it felt good just to eat and relax. Not only that, before they went to the dining room, the captain showed them their guest rooms, where everything was set up just like their rooms in Amos's house. Carter and Sadie even found copies of their usual outfits, now in linen. Sadie even found time to redo the highlights in her hair, this time in blue. As they all sat and ate at the dining table, Carter and Sadie locked eyes and silently agreed it was time to ask. "Boss, what did the captain want you to tell us?" Carter asked. "Oh, you shouldn't listen to demons, dear," she said. "He is bound by magic to serve, but if he ever got loose, he would go rogue and attack everyone on this ship. Something to keep in mind." "You're changing the subject," Carter said. She took a deep breath and explained that she hadn't been on this boat since the day their mom died. After she died, their father brought her on board the boat, and right here, in this same living room, was where they made their deal. They realized she meant the deal to watch Sadie and become Muffin for 6 years. Then Carter took out the drawing of the cat and snake and asked, "Does this look familiar to you?" Boss took another deep breath and explained how Ra had chosen her to look after Apophis, the Chaos Snake, before Ra retreated to the heavens. She said Ra casted her and the snake into the abyss, where she had to keep it down forever before Julius and Ruby came along. "I still remember Ra's words," she continued. "My loyal cat, this is your greatest duty." And before long, I spent centuries upon centuries fighting that snake with no rest, getting more and more weak and exhausted. Your father said that your mother had foreseen horrible things if the snake would have overcome me. "So that's when they went to Cleopatra's Needle?" Sadie asked. "So Mom and Dad did set you free," Carter said. "But what happened to the snake? Your mother closed the breach just in time, and he remained trapped. But she used all her magical energy so much it burned her up inside and out, and that's when it happened. Your father mentioned that your mother told him it was the first step in restoring the gods and mud, and they were doing the right thing. Your mother died a hero, while I could do nothing." "It's not your fault," Carter said. "Yeah," Sadie said. "Obviously, you would be too exhausted if you had to spend centuries fighting for your life without any rest." "There's something else as well," Boss said. "As the years went by, your father and Amos and I started to question how much longer the snake's prison would hold, and we would have to—" Without warning, they heard the captain calling through the intercom, confirming that they were approaching their destination. They were so busy talking, none of them realized how it had gotten dark so fast, because they also didn't realize how quick they sailed into the Duat. It happened just like the same way with Amos's boat. They sailed through a big thick fog from out of nowhere, and when the fog cleared, they appeared somewhere else. Only this time, it wasn't a familiar city. Instead, they were now floating in an underground river. A large cavern ceiling stretched up about as high as a skyscraper, and the river was the color of dark blood. The only other light outside the boat were flames in the distance. "Is this," Sadie hesitated. "The land of the dead," Boss finished. The boat started to slow down and pulled over next to a boardwalk on a small island. On this island, they noticed some even weirder looking creatures waddling around. They looked like birds, but with human faces. At the tip top of the island was a black temple, the Hall of Judgment. "I hope to see you again, Lord and Lady Kane," said Bloodstained Blade. "I am always prepared to serve, unless you see it fit to release me." "We'll, call if we need you again," Carter said. "Thanks for everything." "As you wish," the demon said. Then the ship sank into the river, but something told them that both the ship and the demon were just fine. As they walked, one of the human-faced birds landed next to Sadie. Sadie immediately recognized this one. Its face had wrinkly brown skin and milky white eyes as if it were blind. Iskander?" Sadie guessed. "Hello, my dear," he answered. Sadie hesitated, and she started tearing up. "Your last words. You said I too can rest at last. I didn't want to believe it, but it's true. You did die. I'm so sorry." "It's not your fault, my dear," Iskandar said. "Like all life, it was just my time." "But it was terrible timing," Sadie complained. "You died before we could train, and now Desjardins is after us. We needed you." "Oh, my dear Sadie, look how far you've come," Iskandar said. "Look how much you and your brother have accomplished. You did not need me. Either way, my brethren would have found out the truth about you sooner." "So you knew all along, didn't you?" Sadie guessed. "You knew Carter and I were hosting gods." "After the second meeting, yes," he answered. "I only regret not realizing it sooner. I wish I could have protected you too, as much as—" He hesitated. "What? Who?" Sadie asked. "I made many choices, Sadie. Some wise, while others I regretted later." "Like the decision to forbid the gods?" Sadie guessed. "My mother convinced you it was a bad idea, didn't she?" "You must understand, Sadie. My spirit was crushed since Egypt fell to the Romans, no thanks to Cleopatra, who thought she could host a god. For generations I blamed everyone, and then Toth and I came to an agreement that gods and humans were better off living lives without one another. But your mother foresaw a time which seems very close, where mud would be destroyed and chaos would claim all creation. And only gods and magicians could prevent it all. I was a foolish old man, but your parents knew better than I did. And now they have sacrificed themselves because I would do nothing. And for that, I am so sorry, my dear." He made it sound like her parents' deaths was his fault, but she didn't see it that way. "I don't blame you," she said. "But what do we do about Set?" "That, my dear, I cannot answer," he said. "Your choice." He turned as if he heard another voice. "I'm sorry, I am out of time. I must go forth with my new duties as gatekeeper. Until we meet again, Sadie Kane." "Wait, I have more questions," Sadie called. "What exactly did my mom see?" But he didn't answer, and continued flying into the endless cavern. As they got closer, they noticed how the palace was dark, not just because they were underground, but because it was literally made completely out of black stone. The halls led them into a large empty room, except for a throne chair right in the middle. Behind that was a large scale. Some strange small animal was napping at the foot of the throne. Its front half was cat-like, while its back end was more like a hippo or maybe an elephant, and its head resembled a crocodile. A meat the devourer. "I thought he'd be bigger," Carter said. "He only needs to be big enough to eat hearts," Boss said. Then they heard a strong rumbling behind them. Smoke started to fill the room, and what appeared to be a large black animal scurried behind the smoke. Then the dark shape seemed to shrink, the smoke cleared, and they saw a boy? He didn't seem much older than Carter, about 14, maybe 15. He had a pale complexion and was outfitted with a black leather jacket and jeans that matched his dark hair and eyes. Sadie might have been drooling after getting a good look at him. It was Anubis, Prince of the Afterlife. "Hello," he said softly. "You are all not dead." "No, but we are trying very hard," Sadie said. Carter explained how Toss sent them here to get the Feather of Truth, so they could challenge Set, and Khufu backed him up. "No," Anubis said, "and I'll show you why." He gestured toward the far corner of the room. In that corner, they saw what appeared to be a smoky hologram of a graveyard. Sadie walked over to get a closer look. Only then did she notice the temple and her friends were gone. "Welcome to New Orleans," Anubis said. "Where'd everybody go?" Sadie asked. "Is this real?" It's okay. They're all right. They're all right where we left them, Anubis promised. I only brought you here so I could speak with you in private. Khufu mentioned how you and your brother are the new host of Isis and Horus. I never got along with Horus, but Isis always treated me like a son. To be perfectly fair, I'm the one in control, not Isis, Sadie said, and this does not make me your mother. I'm not ready for that sort of thing yet. Indeed. And you don't really act like a godling, Anubis said. And what about you? You just let the funeral god take the wheel just like that? Sadie asked. There is no one hosting me, Anubis answered. I can channel myself in every graveyard or any place of death, but no one hosts me. This body you see is my natural appearance. Shame, Sadie said. What? Anubis asked. Nothing. Sadie rushed in. She silently chided herself for what she said. What was she thinking? She was talking to a deity who was like 5,000 years old and not even human. It wasn't right to let her guard down just because she thought he was cute. Anyway, she said, we're getting off the subject. Can you give us the feather or not? You don't know what you're asking. For a mortal to have it would be dangerous, Anubis warned. It would go against Osiris's laws. Osiris is the one we need to rescue, Sadie argued. Even so, you realize speaking even the slightest dishonesty would burn you up, Anubis warned. You calling me a liar? Sadie argued. Yes, Anubis said. Ugh, well. Are you always this infuriating? Anubis asked. Usually more, Sadie answered. It's no wonder why your family hasn't found you a husband already, said Anubis. Excuse me? Sadie asked. Look, I understand if you've been needing to, get with the times, but it's the 21st century now. Most people have a lot more sense than to just sell away their children to some stranger like some lifeless jewel. Look, if you let me just borrow the feather, I'll go defeat Set, free Osiris, then Osiris will come back here and set things right. It's a win-win. If I do, I must insist on several conditions, Anubis said. He held out his palm, and a tiny glowing blue feather popped out of thin air. Will you, Sadie Kane, and for Osiris's sake, promise to be the one, and I mean the only one, to carry the feather, and also to listen to whatever my mother, Nephthys, has to tell you once you meet her? I promise, Sadie answered. One more thing, Anubis continued. Before you go, I must ask you 3 questions to prove your honesty. And for your own sake, you must promise yourself not to lie, even a little. Give me the bloody feather, Sadie complained. Are you ready? He asked. No, she complained. Good, Anubis said. Second question. Would you be willing to give your life to save your brother if necessary? Of course, Sadie answered, which was surprising even to herself. Final question, Anubis continued. Would you be prepared to lose your father if it meant saving the world? What? That's not a fair question, Sadie argued. Fair or unfair, you must answer honestly, Anubis warned. Sadie could never believe a choice to save one person over the rest of the world would sit on her shoulders. What would her dad have to say about it? I suppose if it meant saving the world, and there really was no other way, then yes, I would save the world, Sadie answered. Then the feather is yours, Anubis said. It takes strength to admit the truth, Sadie Kane, and the truth is never easy. You've just done far more well than most souls I have ever met. Sure, I feel much stronger now, Sadie said sarcastically. I should let you go now, for tomorrow is Set's birthday, and you have very little time left. I do hope we meet again on better circumstances, Sadie Kane. He disappeared in a cloud of smoke. When the smoke cleared, Sadie was still in the graveyard, but now Carter, Bast, and Khufu were next to her. What just happened? Carter asked. What a jerk, Sadie murmured.